The man and his dog walked across the farmland, the early morning sun casting long shadows on the earth. Another day, another trip to the chicken coop to feed the birds. The dog trotted alongside him, content, while the man soaked in the silence, unaware of how quickly that was about to be shattered. But as they neared the coop, something felt wrong. The usual pecking and clucking was gone, replaced by eerie silence. Several chickens lay motionless, their bodies twisted unnaturally, feathers matted with dried blood. Their eyes were wide open, frozen mid-scream. The dog's tail shot straight, hackles bristling. A low growl rose in its throat. Then it erupted into a sharp, frantic bark, eyes locked upward. The man followed its gaze. At first, all he saw was sky. Then, a sound. A buzz like a mosquito, but deeper, meaner. He squinted, and there it was. A drone, hovering high above, sleek and metallic, its proboscis glinting in the sun. "Great," the man muttered, the words low and dry, the anger bubbling under the surface. "Just great." He grabbed several rocks from the ground and hurled them at the drone. The rocks missed by a good 5 feet. The drone buzzed off into the sky, seemingly in retreat. The man stood still. Even though the drone had disappeared, he knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. By nightfall, the man still couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He stood at the stove, stirring a pot of stew, but his focus was slipping. His dog was pacing back and forth, barking at the windows and the darkness beyond. "Relax," the man muttered, but it came out more like a reflex than anything that might calm the dog. He tried to ignore it, shoving the unease down as he flipped through the TV channels, letting the hum of the screen drown out the barking. But the dog wasn't having it. Its barks grew more frantic, like it could sense something the man couldn't. The man exhaled sharply, annoyed. He looked out the window. Nothing. Just the dark, empty yard. But then, there it was again. That low, buzzing hum. It hovered behind the tree line, waiting for the perfect moment, like a predator eyeing its prey. It could feel him, the man. He was its target. The drone wasn't done yet. It wasn't going anywhere until it had its revenge. Inside the house, the man could feel it. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up, but he didn't look outside. Not yet. The dog's barking escalated, high-pitched, frantic. It was almost desperate now. The man ignored it. He locked all the windows, trying to push it out of his mind, but no matter how hard he tried, that buzzing sound stayed in his head. The drone was still out there, watching him, waiting. The next morning, the man went about his day. He peered outside, half expecting the drone to be hovering there like some eerie, metallic sentinel. But the sky was clear, and for a brief moment, he felt something he hadn't in a while. Relief. He sighed, the weight on his shoulders easing just a bit. Maybe it was just a fluke. Maybe he could finally get some peace and clean the side of the house. He grabbed the industrial hose. No more procrastinating. The dirt had been building up for far too long. He started spraying down the side of the house, the water blasting against the grime. His dog, ever the watchful companion, was barking again, though. He ignored it, focused on the job. He didn't even glance back. Behind him, though, something was happening. The drone reappeared, ominously hovering just above him. It came in slowly at first, like a shadow, its presence growing heavier with each beat of its rotors. The dog saw it, of course. The dog always saw it coming, but the man was too busy to notice. In a flash, the dog ran. Without thinking, it jumped onto the man, knocking him to the ground just as the drone swooped down, its metallic proboscis just inches away from the man's face, a heartbeat away from disaster. The man's eyes widened as he hit the dirt, his breath catching. "What the?" He turned his head and saw the drone, quickly realizing just how close he had come to being skewered. The dog was already backing away, standing guard, like it knew it had just saved the man's life. The man scrambled to his feet. He grabbed the industrial hose and turned it on full blast. He aimed at the drone. The water shot forward with such force it could have knocked a brick wall down. The drone easily outmaneuvered the stream of water. It quickly retreated, buzzing angrily as it fled back into the sky. The man stood there, panting, watching the drone go. He gave the hose one last shake, muttering to himself, "Well, that's one way to spend my morning." That night, While the man and his dog ate dinner, the atmosphere in the house felt a little off. The dog, who had been calm moments ago, suddenly tensed up. His ears pricked and his eyes locked on the window. The man paused mid-bite. His dog's sudden shift wasn't just paranoia. The animal was sharp, and the man knew enough now to listen. He set his fork down and cautiously walked toward the window, the dog's low growl growing louder with each step. He peeked outside, eyes scanning the darkness. Nothing. Just the moonlit yard and a few stray shadows. But of course, the drone had no intention of being seen. From its hiding spot behind a thick tree, it observed them. Its sensors focused on the man and his dog, monitoring every slight movement. It didn't need to get any closer, not yet. It had all the time in the world. Back inside, the man turned away from the window, sighing. "Nothing," he muttered to himself. The dog's growling hadn't subsided. It was just too quiet. The man grabbed the phone and dialed the police. This had to be dealt with. When the officer picked up, the man wasted no time. "Listen, I've got a drone on my property. It's been stalking me and it's acting like it's ready to attack." The officer interrupted, voice flat. "Sounds like a prank, sir. Maybe some kids messing around." The man's grip tightened on the phone. "I'm telling you, it's been circling my house all day." There was a pause, followed by a slow sigh from the officer. Sure, okay. Just stay inside and keep your doors locked, all right?" The man didn't even bother to respond. He hung up, muttering curses under his breath. The man closed the curtains, then turned off the lights throughout his house, one by one. It was time for bed. From its position outside, the drone's sensors flickered, adjusting as it tracked the man's movements through the windows. It watched as the man moved through the house, one last trace of light left as he shut off the final switch. The drone's systems blinked with irritation. The dark was its enemy. Without the glowing outline of the man's figure behind the curtains, it had no clear way of knowing where he was. It had lost sight of its prey. The man stood in the silence of the dark. He couldn't help but feel that it wasn't over. The drone, wherever it was still out there, lurking. The next morning, the man had to venture outside the safety of his home again. This time, it was to till the fields. He took a long look around before stepping out of the house. No sign of the drone. He walked to the barn where his tractor was stored, trying to shake off the unease crawling up his spine. He glanced at his dog, who had gone completely still, ears pricked and eyes fixed on the horizon. But the dog didn't need to bark this time. The man knew better. His dog was growling a warning, and his dog was never wrong. Without a second thought, the man broke into a run toward the barn. His boots hit the dirt hard, each step more frantic than the last. His dog followed just behind him. They reached the tractor and jumped in. The man breathed a sigh of relief as the tractor door slammed shut. His heart was pounding, but then it hit him. He didn't have anything to defend himself with if that drone came at him again. His shotgun, his hunting gear, everything was a few feet away in the shed. The same shed he'd have to sprint to from the field he'd be tilling if things went south. He gritted his teeth and braced himself. The drone hovered just out of view, watching from behind the barn door. Its sensors tracked every movement, every shift in the man's stance. It was patient. It knew the man would slip up sooner or later. And then the tractor door creaked open. The man stepped out of the tractor and made a dash for his hunting gear. Before he could blink, the drone dove at him like a bullet. But just in the nick of time, the man turned around, shotgun in hand, and fired. The blast rang out, and the drone jerked back, clipped in the underbelly. It didn't drop, but it did pull away, buzzing furiously as it went. The man exhaled a breath he didn't know he'd been holding, watching the drone fly off into the distance. He'd done it. He'd scared it off. For now, at least. He grinned to himself, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. He'd protected himself, protected his property. The drone wasn't going to ruin his day. He hopped back into his tractor, his loyal four-legged friend beside him. The engine roared to life, and together they drove off to the field surrounding his house. The tilling went by uneventfully at first. The tractor hummed steadily, cutting through the soil as the man focused on the task. But then he noticed his dog, his loyal four-legged friend, acting a little off. The dog, used to having the windows down to sniff the air, now just stared out the window, looking miserable. his wet nose pressed against the glass, the longing in his eyes obvious as he tried to get a whiff of the breeze that always made him happy. A small knot of guilt formed in the man's gut. He knew what the dog wanted. The dog looked back at him, eyes wide, ears perked. But the man hesitated. What if the drone was still lurking? What if it came back the second he let his guard down? He scanned the skies. Nothing. No sign of the drone. He sighed, giving in to the dog's pleading gaze. The last thing he wanted was to deal with a sad, sulking dog for the rest of the afternoon. He reached over and carefully began to turn the window handle. The dog's tail started wagging immediately, and it licked the man's face. The joy was contagious, and for a moment, the man actually smiled. The drone hovered directly above the tractor, a silent predator waiting for its moment. The moment any crevice creaked open, it would be ready. No more games. The drone's systems buzzed quietly, as the man was just about to give it what it wanted. The tractor's passenger window slid open. The dog immediately threw his head out, ears flopping in the wind, breathing in the fresh air like it was the best thing he'd ever smelled. And then, it happened. Seemingly out of nowhere, the drone descended from above, its proboscis shooting down with terrifying precision. It struck the dog's skull, sinking in with a sickening thud. The dog yelped once, sharp and desperate, and then went completely limp before the man even had time to react. His heart froze. The world seemed to stop. He slammed his foot on the brake, the tractor skidding to a halt. He didn't even register the sound of the engine grinding to a stop. His hands shook as he reached for the dog, but there was nothing to do. His loyal companion was not moving. The drone, like some twisted creature of the night, hovered beside the open window, its proboscis still glistening with the remnants of its strike. The man's chest tightened with rage. He grabbed his shotgun, his fingers trembling as he aimed at the drone. Several blasts rang out, but they all missed. The drone darted away with a mocking buzz, faster than the man could fire. Grief, fury, and helplessness churned inside him, but he was too late. The drone was already gone. And his dog? His dog was gone too. Beside himself with grief, the man carried his beloved four-legged friend back to the house. His shotgun hung from his shoulder, but it might as well have been made of paper. Tears streamed down his face as he trudged across the dirt, his chest tight with sorrow. Beside the front porch, he dug a grave for his dog, every shovelful of dirt feeling like it was digging into his heart, too. When the hole was deep enough, he gently placed his friend inside, the weight of his grief crushing him as he stood over the fresh grave. With a shaky breath, he whispered, "I'll kill that thing, if it's the last thing I do." That night, the man ate dinner alone. His dog's empty bowl sat beside him like a cruel reminder. He couldn't look at it without feeling the sharp sting of loss in his chest. The food, the silence, everything felt wrong. Emotion bubbled up in his eyes again, and just as he wiped the tears away, a faint buzzing filled the air. From just outside, the drone hovered, its sensors locking onto the man in the kitchen. It wouldn't leave him alone, not until it had finished what he started. The man's head snapped up, and he saw the drone hovering outside his kitchen window. The thing was trying to break in. It bumped into the glass, a soft thud, then another, each bump more aggravated than the last. The man stood up, shaking. Without a second thought, he closed the shutters. Then he closed the shutters on every other window in the house, locking them tight. But as he stood there, breathing heavily, he knew it wouldn't stop there. He waited, listening, trying to understand what its next move would be. The buzzing faded, but just as the man began to sigh with relief, the buzzing grew louder as the drone came closer to the house. This time, it went for the front door. It slammed its proboscis against the knob, pushing, testing, looking for a way inside. The man bolted to the door, throwing a chair in front of it to block the drone's relentless assault. His hands shook, but he did it anyway. He backed away, trying to catch his breath. He flopped onto the couch, exhausted. He thought he was safe now, inside his home, behind locked doors. He wasn't. The drone circled the house, its frustration growing with each failed attempt to break through. Its proboscis thrusted uselessly against the door, but it couldn't get in that way. It knew that, but it wasn't done. The man had attacked it. He'd hurt it, and it would make him pay. The drone flew around the house, searching for a weak spot. The windows, Locked. The door barricaded. It scanned the perimeter of the house. There had to be an entry point. Its internal systems started chiming with glee. It found a weak spot. The chimney. The one place the man hadn't thought to protect. The drone hovered toward it, its systems calculating, planning. Grief-stricken and defeated, the man sat aimlessly on the couch, staring into space. The drone's buzzing was the last thing on his mind, until he heard something else, a soft rattle. The rattle grew louder, turning into a steady, unyielding hum. His heart dropped into his stomach as he realized where it was coming from. The drone emerged from the fireplace. The man jumped up in terror, his heart hammering in his chest. He turned and ran through the house, the drone hot on his heels. He grabbed anything he could, a book, a chair, a vase, and hurled it at the drone. The drone dodged each item effortlessly, buzzing toward him relentlessly, never slowing. Desperation clawed at the man. He dashed through the house, trying to lose it, trying to escape, but there was no escaping. In a panic, he threw open the refrigerator door, and by some miracle, with sheer blunt force, he knocked the drone to the kitchen floor. The man stood there, gasping for air, heart racing. His mind was a blur of confusion, half expecting the thing to jump back up and finish what it started. But the drone lay there, still. It was almost too quiet. He exhaled, a shaky breath of relief. He was done with this. He had won. Hadn't he? He took a cautious step forward, eyes narrowed, ready for whatever move it might pull next. And then, just like that, the drone sprang to life. Its proboscis shot out like a snake striking in the dark. Before he could react, it hit him. The man gasped, his world starting to fade to black. The last thing he heard was the whirl of the drone's blades. Then nothing. SCP-160, an anomaly classified by the Foundation as Euclid. Let's talk about this little flying nightmare, shall we? What we have here is a quadriflyer unmanned aerial vehicle, the UAV, measuring about 1.1 meters across at its widest point. It looks like something you'd expect from the next-gen tech catalog, but of course, the fine details have been conveniently wiped clean. No manufacturer logos, no identifying marks, just a sleek, untraceable machine, because clearly the world needed something like this. Now, SCP-160 operates autonomously with no apparent external control. It's essentially a flying predator. Its behavior is reminiscent of birds of prey, except this one's made of metal and hell-bent on finding its next meal. This drone actively hunts small animals, rodents, rabbits, miniature dogs, you name it. Once it locks onto its prey, it dives down at insane speeds, impaling the unfortunate animal with a metallic proboscis. That's when the fun begins. It injects a highly caustic substance, liquefying the internal organs of its victim and draining the resulting slurry. Bon appetit. It doesn't have much interest in humans or larger animals, usually. That said, if you happen to annoy it, this drone has no problem defending itself. And we're talking brutal self-defense. One jab from its proboscis, and you're in for excruciating pain, possibly death, as your organs liquefy from the inside out. And don't even think about tranquilizing it. Attempts to use tranquilizer darts? Useless. SCP-160 is made from entirely non-biological components, rendering such methods ineffective. There was even talk about using an electromagnetic pulse, or EMP, to disable it, but higher-ups vetoed that idea. Why? Because it might cause unforeseen collateral damage, which sounds like a fun day at work. SCP-160 was discovered following a series of missing pets in a town, suspiciously vanishing, only to be found later in various less than pleasant states. After several pets had gone missing and reappeared lifeless, the Foundation was alerted. Upon investigation, SCP-160 was quickly identified and captured. Further searches in the area turned up many small animals, including cats, rabbits, and miniature dogs. SCP-160 was transported to a secure site, where it's been kept under tight control ever since. SCP-160 is stored in a secure biocontainment chamber, where it is to be fed live prey, usually rabbits or similarly sized animals, once per week, all via an automated system, because letting anyone get too close is a bad idea. Experiments require approval from at least 2 Level 3 personnel, and any personnel entering the chamber must wear an armored suit at all times. So the next time you cross paths with a drone like SCP-160, maybe try talking it out. I'm kidding, it won't listen. Do yourself a favor, run. Don't throw rocks, don't try to fight it, just run. Because if you don't, you'll end up regretting it when your organs turn into a puddle. It's really not the kind of life lesson you want to learn.